Welcome to the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe. I'm an advisor, author, and general explorer of the service and experience space. My guests tend to have just released some interesting research. They run a company that has some interesting tech in the service and experience space. They are part of an organization that is doing some cool stuff, or they run their own business doing interesting things for both their customers and or their employees. That's enough from me. Let's get into the interview. Before we get going, I'd like to interrupt to let you know that this is a combo podcast that features 3 short interviews that I conducted while at HubSpot's Grow Europe 2024 event that took place in London earlier this month. My first chat is with Daphne Costa-Lopez, a friend of the podcast, which she was on recently, a couple of months ago or so, but she is the Global Director of Customer Success at HubSpot. And I caught up with her at the event and we talk about HubSpot's flywheel approach, what it is, where it came from, and also a new customer success development within HubSpot's platform. Let's get into the interview. I'm here at the HubSpot Grow 2024 event in London and on the south bank of the Thames, which is quite nice. It's slightly overcast. But Daphne Costa-Lopez, who we've had on the podcast before, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to see you in person.
I know, it's great. It's like a bit like you're not just like this, a picture.
Yeah, you're 3D. That is 3D.
It's all real. So you just did a session with your colleague Colette about whole customer success, but the thing that one of the themes that's been coming out of the event is you've been talking about this flywheel idea, and and I've heard it in some of the keynotes as well, and it's quite a central thing to how HubSpot approaches it. So just tell me, what is the flywheel? Why do you think it's broken, and how do you think you should be fixing it, or how we think we should be fixing it?
I think the best way to explain the flywheel is to start by explaining the funnel, which a lot of people are familiar with.
Okay. Yep.
Right? So the marketing and sales funnel, it looks very much at, you put in leads at the top, you attract people into your website and to have conversations with your business. Then your sales team will engage with them, and hopefully the output of that is a customer. And it looks like a funnel because you attract way more leads, and you kind of lose them as they go. So it narrows down, It funnels down all the way to get a real customer out of that, right? And some people do that better or worse. There is, economics there in terms of how much you convert. And about 6 years ago, founder of HubSpot, Brian Howden, he stood on stage at Inbound, which is our flagship conference, and said, the funnel is broken. It's broken because it treats the customer as an output of the process. And once you finish that process, the customer is there and nothing happens, right? It's the end. Yeah. It's a finite process. Uh-huh. When in reality, it's not finite, right? So what you do is you attract those leads, you engage with them, you convert them, they become customers, and your hope is that you're going to deliver on your promises. And once you do that, you earn their trust and you earn the right to sell again to them. And your company keeps growing because you keep solving new problems for those customers.
So it's about relationships and like about an ongoing two-way sort of thing, rather than it being, I'm just going to try to sell you something and then it's done.
Yes, absolutely. And that becomes cyclical. So if you imagine a wheel, it becomes something that comes around over and over again.
Right.
And the better you are at doing that, so for example, if you attract the right types of leads, if you convert them quickly and they become customers and you deliver value fast for them, then they're going to be ready to buy more from you faster, and that flywheel can spin faster and faster and faster. Okay. And your business will grow as a result of that. Because one of the things that I said in the conference today is a really interesting stat that we have is that growing customers is 25 times cheaper than acquiring new ones. And that means that if you're able to get very good at this flywheel, your business will accelerate and grow much faster and much more sustainably.
But then you also said that so Brian talked about the funnel being broken and had to move to more of a flywheel kind of model. And it's more about looking at relationships, building the relationships, nurturing them over time and things. But there's also, and I think that was Kieran on the main stage, and also Mark Barry and Shay on the main stage was talking about that actually there's the flywheel is kind of changing as well. It's coming under pressure for all the new things that are coming out, particularly around kind of generative AI and its impact on search and all these different sort of things. So how should we respond? How are businesses should businesses be responding in this kind of midst of this massive sort of change, new possibilities that are going on right now? Because moved from being a flywheel and moved to being focused on the flywheel, but the flywheel needs, is it broken or does it just need adjusting kind of now? What's your view?
Yeah, I think what we're experiencing in the flywheel is that the concept is really strong, and a lot of companies are trying to achieve that land, expand, and explode strategy.
Right, okay.
However, where it's broken is the customer experience isn't as good as we think it should be, as it could be, because there's friction in the flywheel. So when you pass information between marketing and sales, services and sales and marketing, like that information is not flowing freely. Mm-hmm. And because every single one of those teams is operating in a silo, then we're losing information in the cracks. We're losing opportunities in the cracks. And that means that when the customer is going through that experience, it doesn't feel like one unified joint experience that they're going through. Yeah. And for that reason, the flywheel has these cracks on it. And in some organizations, it's completely dissociated and broken.
Yep.
And in some organizations, there are cracks that need fixing so that it can spin faster.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, it's fascinating. I always think about that sort of thing. It's a bit like having a relay team. You know, I had in athletics. And the truth is, the reality in winning relay races is that there's no guarantee. Just because you might have the best runners or the fastest runners, you don't necessarily win the race. Because the job of winning the race is who gets the baton round to the track faster. And I always use that to explain to people, because actually it's not about having the fastest or the best kind of teams. It's about who passes the baton over kind of most effectively and kind of getting transport. So that's the job of transporting it. And I remember telling that story to you, or that used that analogy with a friend of mine, Michael James, and he's like a process improvement kind of guy. And he said he's worked in all sorts of big companies, and he goes like, you know what? In all of the work that I've kind of done, I know that 90% of all the problems happens in the spaces between teams. But to your point, it's like when some people have got this sales, marketing, and service, and they're all kind of like separate places, using separate data, and they haven't figured out the handover, they're not coordinated or aligned or things. It just creates so many kind of problems. And I think what's quite refreshing for me is how HubSpot has always taken that marketing, sales, service sort of a combined approach. And you talk about having a customer platform as a thing, but how there's all sorts of things that were announced as well about how you're going to use sort of artificial intelligence to improve that, to make the flywheel kind of like spin a little bit faster, or to help you get to the explode stages. What sort of stuff should people be looking out for that's going to help the flywheel kind of spin a bit faster?
Yeah, so I think one of the most interesting things that are available right now in HubSpot are the agents that we have launched, the AI agents. Yep. We call them Breeze, is a layer of AI on top of all of our technology. And what it does is, instead of your team having to catch up on all of the information that the sales team has exchanged with the customer, or all the ticket information, it's all about gathering that information and being able to surface faster, but not just surface so that your team can have conversations, but also that you can tailor your communication at scale. So you can market better, you can send more tailored and personalized messages to your customers. Yep. So I think that AI layer that's in every product in HubSpot is really, really powerful, because it can translate between what's happening in sales and services, and then push it back to marketing and sales again, and that flywheel keeps spinning. So I think that the Breeze, if you are not using AI yet and you think is a hype and you're kind of thinking like, what are the use cases? Personally, I think this is one of the most exciting things that we launched inside HubSpot. Our teams inside HubSpot are using it, and we're seeing some great results. So I recommend people look at Breeze. The other thing that we announced, and actually we are the first CRM company to ever have the customer success team inside the CRM.
Yeah, no, you announced that, and I was like, what? What?
Yeah. Obviously, customer success teams have been square pegs in a round
Good
hole.
morning and welcome to the Royal Festival Hall. Registration is
That'll be it.
open, so please head down to level 1 to registration desk.
I am totally going to leave that in because I just told you exactly where we are. We're in the Royal Festival Hall, and even though there's events on, their needs supersedes everyone else.
Absolutely.
General announcement.
Yeah, general announcement. That's so funny. What was I saying?
You were talking about how customer success has a dedicated space. Well, for the first time, Liz, when you announced it, I was a bit like, what? You're the first CRM platform that has a dedicated customer success workspace space in your platform.
Yeah.
And I was a bit like, well, that's great.
Yeah.
But also crazy that you're the first. It feels like an obvious thing that should have been done.
It does, yeah. So we are the first CRM to have a dedicated space. And like I was saying, CS teams have been inside the CRM. Of course, they are round pegs in square holes or square pegs in round holes, whatever the expression is. But what has happened is that we tried to make the structure of the CRM work for CS teams, and it never has fully worked. So they were using sales pipelines, they were using ticket pipelines to try and do the proactive work.
Sure.
But it meant that when it came to identifying risks and opportunities, so all that data science layer, that wasn't really available to customer success teams unless they plugged another platform. And again, surprisingly enough, a lot of those platforms for a very long time only had like a very basic sync with the CRMs,
right?
Which meant that very little information was going back and forward. And then the other thing that happened as well is if a CSM wanted to alert sales of an opportunity, that was a message that they were sending, right? There was no opportunity type created, etc. So for the first time, we now have a dedicated CS workspace inside the CRM that's designed for customer success managers, thinking about the process that the customer success manager goes through, the tasks that they need to perform in order to do their jobs well, and more importantly, what is the valuable data and signals that they need in order to help customers see value faster.
Awesome. Well, I think this room is getting a bit busy.
Yes.
It's going to get towards transition. I just want to say, Daphne, is nice to meet in person.
Yes.
Thank you for sparing me a few minutes, and good luck on the round 2, the encore session this afternoon. And so, yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Aidan. It's been so nice to see you in person.
Now, wasn't that a great chat? All very useful and fascinating stuff. Next up, I chat to Creven O'Malley, VP Corporate Sales of EMEA at HubSpot, about the highlights and takeaways from a panel that he moderated with HubSpot clients and industry experts that were discussing how to navigate the flywheel that I talked about with Daphne. On the panel were Lubna Qureshi, Head of Marketing at Teamwork.com, Magnus Foldiger, Business Architecture and Technology Manager at Pleo, and Christoph Ehlers, Senior Project Manager at SwapFeeds. Let's get into my chat with Creven. Right, so I am with Creven O'Malley, who has just hosted a panel, great panel, called Navigating the Flywheel. Hello, Creven. How are you doing?
I'm good.
And that had, I'm not going to do all the names, Lubna from Teamwork.com, Christoph from SwapFeeds, Magnus from Pleo. Really good, great discussion, great points, great insights. What stood out for you? I mean, there's a pressure question.
Yeah. Adrian, great to meet you. Great to get a chance to talk to you and your listeners. I think, you asked the question, and the first thing that jumps out at me is, for a vendor, for a company, no matter what your product line is or what it is you're trying to seed and share in the market, you cannot beat the real experience of customers,
right,
and people who are using your product or service. So we've had some amazing sessions this morning at Grow Europe here in London, and I've looked at sort of product-led roadmap conversations. I've listened to an amazing keynote by Mark Barry, our MD, and it sort of lays out where we're going and what the future could look like. But in sales, you talk to customers every day, and they have problems and pains today that they need to serve and they need to solve. And, listening to all three explain how the technology is wonderful, the product seems to be doing a good job, and I'm so pleased, they're fantastic customers of ours. but it's helping them today,
Right.
yesterday, and tomorrow. So that sort of real experience of tech meets the road was special for me.
You know, the thing is, it reminds me of there's this thing that I say every now and again, and sometimes I say it when I do a bunch of speaking and things on my own, and I have this phrase where I say the future of customer experience is always built in the present.
Yeah,
and it generally dumbfounds people when you say that, because you're like talking about all this technology and they go like, "Yeah, what do you mean?"
Yeah.
And it's because people have problems today.
Yeah.
And if you don't attend to them today, then you forfeit the chance to attend to them tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really kind of interesting thing, is because it's a bit like, we need to be future focused, but also do the thing that matters right now.
I love that. I'm going to borrow that too, by the way. But I would just add
There's
to
a little
that.
C with a kind of like...
But you're so right. Like, if you don't show up today, your roadmap is slideware, vaporware. I've got a problem now. We talk about this line in say, the moment that matters. Like, it's today. And the other thing I would say that's a complexity about providing great customer experience is customers are not this sort of, strategic concept in the corner. I'm a customer. You're a customer.
Yeah, exactly.
And what we don't allow brands get away with today is to just be a little bit better than their competitor. And by that, I mean, if you're a customer of HubSpot, you're not just looking for us to do better or worse or whatever the case may be than Microsoft or Adobe or Salesforce. You've had an amazing customer experience in hospitality. Yeah. You've had an amazing customer experience in financial services with an online bank. And that's what you expect in B2B now. So the pressure for B2B go-to-market leadership is the bar for customer experience in B2B is becoming more and more of a B2C game. Well, and if you can't measure, you've got a problem.
Well, the thing is, that's where the expectations are being set. They've been seeing it in B2C, and it's coming over to B2B.
We're not willing to settle.
No, not at all. But the thing is, it also came through, a big theme that came through from your panel session, but also from other parts of the day, was this idea that this human messaging that was coming through, because it's a bit like, well, to be able to cut through the noise and how that human difference and that human storytelling, that kind of connection. And I was a bit like, well, obviously that makes sense, because otherwise you could just apply AI to it, just turn the handle, it'll just spit out. Also, how do you achieve that?
Yeah.
How do you achieve that nuance? Because that feels like a bit art on top of the science.
Well, it's a really interesting point. And I think, we go to our global conference in Boston every year, Inbound, and our CEO, Yamini Rangan, articulated a point of view in this exact topic. And the topic was, and I speak as somebody who's a leader in HubSpot, AI and the tech and the promise and the value and what it will do is amazing and a little bit overwhelming. And what do I do to stitch some of this together? And she had a section in her keynote that Mark covered here at Grow Europe, which is around the difference between the two. What does the human do within the revolution of AI in customer service and customer experience? AI can do the operational, transactional, workflow stuff that unfortunately is bogging down our customers who need to talk to people on occasion or need to have a great service. And if you're in sales, that turns up as having to do lots of research and doing lots of preparation for admin tasks. If you're in service, it turns up as not having the full context on the customer experience and having to get them to repeat. And if you turn up in marketing and you're in that attract stage, you just don't have all the information and you're not delivering hyper-personalized experiences. When AI can cut through some of that noise and give you quality content in draft one version, this is where the human can apply the content, the context, the subtlety, the creativity, and everything that we're experiencing with the benefit of AI says that it can operationalize in an amazing way those functions, but customers still want that human conversation because there's a nuance and a complexity to my experience, and I need you to hear that and make me feel like you're talking to me.
So
that's important.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think that it makes me think that actually what you're doing is you're using the tools to be able to create the space to allow that quality to come through, whether it's in the subtlety or the nuance or the connection or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
There might just be a little bit of extra time that you can spend with somebody so they don't feel like you're just processed and you're straight through.
Yeah.
But it's like, and maybe that shows up in an empathetic connection or, connected insight or something that's really useful, that's proactive sort of service, all these different things.
There was a really good point in the keynote this morning that Mark delivered, Mark Barry, and it was one of our key customers in France, Agicap.
Uh-huh.
And when you hear stats like this at a conference like this, it doesn't make the impact. But what Pierre talked about was, from Agicap, how a particular piece of function that they've streamlined through the addition of AI and, predictive analytics is saving on average a sales rep about an hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
You scale that up across a growing business. It is literally into hundreds of hours within a few short weeks very quickly. And to your point, how can you unlock that? What does that time back do in terms of how those same individuals can turn up in a very value-adding, insight-adding way for customers? If it just blends into the ecosystem and you don't feel like as a business you get the return of it, that's a problem. But that's a leadership problem.
Yeah.
You've got to give these tools to individuals and make sure that enablement, training, and change management is part of the program. Because here's what we're going to do with the time we save. Yeah. We're going to prioritize customers. That's key.
It is funny because I was speaking to somebody else and they were telling me a story, and I know that we're kind of short on time and we need to go in a minute. They were saying it gives, to your point, it gives people choices.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like you can choose to go, I'm going to spend more time with these people, or I'm going to try and find more people to talk to, or you have a choice about what you do in order to drive the better outcomes and stuff.
I think that's a really key point. Typically, I find whether it's marketing, sales, or service, that complete flywheel, sales funnel, whatever your mindset is towards go to market, who feels like they have loads of time at the moment? Everybody is feeling a little bit under pressure or stressed, to put it mildly. If you have a tooling, a platform, a process, a change management agenda in terms of a leader trying to create the future for their business that unlocks time, that is the most precious commodity you can give. And if that's calibrated to focus on the customer, then you're into an interesting conversation.
Perfect. One quick one to finish. What are you excited about for 2025?
What I'm excited about? I am excited about, hopefully, and it feels like there's a lot going on in the world right now, that the opportunity, the potential, the excitement that I feel in a moment like this, that frankly for all of us, from a macroeconomic, environmental perspective, which that's one of the uncontrollables we don't have.
Sure.
I'd love to feel like in 2025 at some stage, things could potentially calm a little bit. And
fingers crossed.
Absolutely. There's so much going on in the world. But I think if that were to happen, then I think the mind share around true growth strategies and the ability for customers to feel like they can step back a little bit and to focus on theirs, I think it will unlock even more time. But right now, it just feels like a very intense world we're living in. And,
100%.
Maybe that's a dream, but a little bit more time to focus on what it is we're trying to do would be fantastic.
Perfect. Thanks, Graham.
No worries. And pleasure to chat to you.
Another great interview full of brilliant insights. However, we're not quite done yet. My final interview was with Lalitha Stables, GM and country manager of the UK at HubSpot. Now, Lalitha is relatively new to HubSpot, and having worked for Salesforce, Google, and IBM in the past, I wanted to get her view on what stood out for her from the event and what she's excited about going forward. Let's get into the interview.
So, in this little snippet, Lalitha Stables, who is a UK country manager and a corporate sales leader for HubSpot
For
the UK.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you.
Newly minted,
Yes.
and that's resplendent in a pink suit, which is brilliant, but newly minted in HubSpot. So I'm guessing you've been here for what, 5-6 months?
7 months, yeah.
7 months, okay. So you probably went to the big event, Inbound in Boston and
I
stuff.
did.
Had your mind blown.
Yeah, it was amazing.
but this is probably the first that you've done as a
Country leader hosting in London. Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So first impressions of the event, what stood out for you so far?
Well, first impressions, like honestly, I didn't expect the type of turnout that we've had, to be honest. And also just the amount of connection that's happening. Like not only just the presentations were amazing. Like customers are giving me feedback of how meaty it was, very good demos. You know, they're learning and growing with us clearly. And we're so honored that they would spend their whole day with us. But I've just noticed that there's not even dropout rate after lunch. People are still here.
Maybe it's the food.
Yeah, but also, you know, it really
And the cake.
it does make a difference when people pay for their ticket because they really find value in being here. Everyone's paid for their own ticket to be here, so it's I like that because people
There's
are like,
a sense
you know
of
what?
commitment, right?
There's a sense of commitment, and what I've noticed actually when I first came into HubSpot was when I first met the customers, there was an overwhelming emotion of love, and honestly, that is
You
not
have
normal.
a tribe here.
Yeah, like
I mean, I've followed HubSpot for a number of years now, just in terms of being around, being in the same sort of space. From a point when they were doing inbound marketing was their thing.
Yes.
That was their shtick.
Absolutely,
And
they invented the word.
Right, and they were about creating websites and lead capture forms and all these different things. And
had the playbook.
having the content magnet and all that sort of like stuff. And so I've seen the evolution of it all. And yeah, it's a tribe.
It's a tribe, and
It's
people
bordering on a
really
cult,
love-
but it's
bordering on a cult. But honestly, people love HubSpot.
Yeah.
That is not normal. I've seen people love a brand, but they actually love the product.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I see my role as actually how do I extend that love here in the UK? Because we definitely want to be the number one CRM for scaling companies here. So we've just moved everybody into a new office in Bishopsgate.
Nice.
And really want to foster that community so we can get more customers, more partners in, and really foster those relationships because that's how we work.
Awesome. You're in this, you describe yourself as being a CRM kind of player, but you're sort of more than that. And it's probably one of the few players in this space that is sales, marketing, and service all knitted together on a platform. Now, there's other platforms that can technically, in inverted commas, do that.
Yes.
But you guys have been doing that sort of from the get-go, sort of since you've built it. And it's like, but you don't really crow about it as much.
I was so surprised. Like, just to give you a little bit about my journey here. So before I joined HubSpot, I was at some other big brands. So you might have heard of a company called Salesforce.
Yeah, well, you know them.
A company called Google. And before that at IBM, so I led enterprise sales and partnerships there. So I've had over 2 decades worth of sales leadership experience. So coming in here, the first thing I noticed coming from that CRM kind of world was, wait, so all the objects are together. The smart CRM that we have at HubSpot is literally the secret sauce because we can deliver now in weeks, not months, a single customer view, like a 360-degree view of your customer. And other vendors would take months, if not years, to bring all of those objects together.
And lots of money.
And lots of money and time. So I really feel we can execute on that goal, which is to be the number one CRM for scaling companies because they're at the start of their journey.
Sure.
You know, they don't have to kind of bolt things on later down the track.
And bring people together or negotiate politics or all that sort of stuff to actually kind of to get the same people or the right people in the same room, as it were.
Yeah.
Because they're all, if you're scaling companies, more often than not, you're in the same space.
Yeah, and you get a customer service rep as soon as you buy the product. Again, no other company is going to give you that for free.
Right.
So another couple of things that we don't shout from the rooftop, to be honest.
Which I think is really cool, but it also kind of fuels, having all the data on that customer platform also fuels all of the AI products and things and the features that you're developing. And I know that you're also going to be speaking at one of the breakouts, and you've been in sales leadership for 2 decades. But I wondered, and you were talking about how technology is changing the whole prospecting thing, because it's hard work.
It's really hard work, you know. What I'm sort of noticing is the old way is where the sales reps, all the responsibility falls on them. They do hundreds of calls. They have to, uncover the opportunities. And it's okay, but I think the new way that I'm seeing that's actually really working is where the whole GTM is accountable and we're all building pipeline.
Okay.
And I think that's the game changer in terms of seeing it's strategic and it's collaborative, right? And we can, in fact, deliver on that because we have sales, service, and marketing together. You can align the whole GTM.
Which is fascinating.
Instead of having the old model of the funnel.
I tell you,
what I mean?
yeah, no, absolutely. And I tell you what, I've seen
a
research.
flywheel now.
I've seen research from various kind of people that says one of the key blockers to growth, particularly around, well, any kind of growth, whether it's scaling companies or enterprise level, is the sort of lack of alignment between marketing, sales, and service. And when you get it right, you tend to be more profitable. You keep customers for longer and everything else. And it seems to be that's the thing. It's like people assume that you're aligned. I know that people are talking about there's something that's good to have creative tension, but more often than not, sales, marketing, and service aren't aligned, and they're not talking to each other. And that's the thing. Is like actually, if your technology is fused together, then there's a pretty high likelihood that you're going to have to talk to each other.
Absolutely. And if you can build that accountability at the top with KPIs, that will drive all the behavior you want. You know, and if you can remove complexity out of your tech stack, that's another blocker.
Yeah.
And if you can really hammer home accountability in terms of values across your GTM, I think you've got a real sure winner of being able to scale without all the friction and internal.
And so what's sort of like, what's exciting about some of the technology that you're seeing that's kind of coming down the pipe that you go like, oh, this is going to make that pure BDM's life or that pure BDR's kind of life so much easier.
Yeah.
Because rather than just like banging the phones or the emails or whatever, it's going to be a case of, it's going to be a bit more qualification in that and sort of understanding, because it's applying some of the tech and the data to make their jobs kind of easier.
Exactly. And I think it's really interesting how, we found that out of the research that we did, we found that only 2 hours a day is actually spent on actual selling by sales reps because of all the admin they've got to do and the follow-ups, which take a long time.
Sure.
Meeting prep, so some of the things that we've released in Sales Hub just recently help to give them more time back to spend time on human interaction. Because our high-value customers want human interaction.
Yeah.
So let the technology do all the complex analysis and routine tasks and give them more time in their day so that they're doing less admin. So a couple of things just off the bat is guided selling, for instance, is something. So it'll help them, give them a predictive deal score on all of the deals and what is the most likely to close.
Right.
And it also tells them why that score is attributed to it. So they can see, they could go down and say, oh, it hasn't been touched for a few hundred days. That would be why it's got a bad lead score.
Yeah.
But it's helpful if it's already ranked in one pane.
Sure.
So think of, a 360-degree view of your customer. That's one thing. But now we're able to do a 360-degree view of your work for the day. And how helpful would that be? If I was a sales rep, that's where I was just going to spend my time. So it'll give you guided steps on the next best action to take as well, based on previous history in your CRM, what's the interaction with the customer. So it's really going to help people. Think about sales managers. As a sales leader myself, I'm passionate about helping my team work on the right leads and also closing deals faster. So if technology is going to help me zero in on, say, for instance, prospecting, which we talked about is a team sport, how amazing would it be if HubSpot could deliver all the leads that showed the most interest and intent up the top? Then you're spending your time on the right parts.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And particularly when you think about
craft the email.
Yeah, I mean, there was Daphne, who I spoke to as well, part of this kind of podcast. She was speaking with her colleague Colette. And she asked some of the customer success managers kind of in the room, how many accounts they're managing. And they were so there were people reluctant to put their hands up. They're well, I'm not going to tell you. But there was a couple of brave souls. And then there was a couple of people in the category of managing 100 to 200 different accounts. And then a bit a little bit of help.
Would be nice.
Would be nice.
To help with prioritization.
Yeah.
And
all of that's something they're you haven't spoken to that person thing, or they said this thing, or that thing's come up, or whatever it might be, just to help you prioritize it, to just keep on top of it, all these different things. So that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Now, if you're thinking about BDRs, BDMs, and things trying to do the same sort of thing, they're probably trying to work the same thing, same sort of magnitude of portfolio.
And there's only so many hours in a day, so if we can help to prioritize and ruthlessly help you prioritize daily, and then give you guided actions on what to do next.
Sure.
And even guided prep. So we also built that into our meeting assistant. So they'll give you prep steps as well of what to do. So they'll do the research on the company, the contact, especially if you're trying to craft an email to a C-level, it'll craft it for you with a lot of personalization.
Sure.
So, and then it also gives you autonomy, so you can then add the human touch to it. So it's not just, otherwise you're going to be caught out.
Well, it's just going to be, it'll end up with just being the same thing.
Same
where
thing everywhere.
You've taken your kind of like the name and just kind of cut and paste it sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking to Creven earlier, and he was telling me, and I was saying to him, it feels like that you're using the AI tools to create space.
Yeah.
Then you can then apply your own level of quality, connection, whether it's customization of that email or it's extra time on the phone or in a meeting with somebody, because that's the thing that makes sense and that's the thing that's going to make the difference.
Yeah, so let AI create and let humans curate.
There you go.
There you go. Like that.
So, final thing. What's coming down the pipe that you're excited about?
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know if everyone's excited about this, because I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I don't know if you've seen some of the avatars that are coming out in terms of, everyone hates it. I know, I think it's going to be years before they can perfect that in terms of tone and language and all of that. But I think, when you see how businesses are really struggling to grow these days, and if they're trying to scale and they're having to do more with less, and they can't afford, big teams and SDRs and BDRs and whatever. In the future, I'm sure, that's going to help in terms of help with that connection.
Yeah.
I know some people are thinking, okay, straight away, okay, that's jobs cut. So it's a little bit controversial, but I know that's not going to come out next year.
No.
But I think because everyone's going to have to do more with less, and it is harder to grow your business, and people want more interaction, customized, personalized interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to come in leaps and bounds. I mean,
well, we will watch this space.
We'll watch this space.
Letha, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me.
My pleasure. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Yet again, another great interview full of useful insights. But folks, that's a wrap, as they say in showbiz. I hope you enjoyed my updates from my time at HubSpot's Grow Europe 2024 event. Do take care and look out for another episode coming down the track soon. All the very best. Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. And do tune in again. Thanks very much.